Nurture and Support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Nurture and Support, a recommendation podcast. I am Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, and also with me is...
Hey everybody, it's Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter, and we're back for another week of awesome, at least we think they're awesome, recommendations for all you cool people out there.
Yes indeed, episode 10. So I've got a disturbing pattern in my recommendations that many of them are for either media, music, film, things that were created many, many years ago, and I'm getting a little better. I'm going to actually make a recommendation of something that was done in this current decade, for one, but then I'm going to revert for my second one because that's how I roll. So
it's baby steps.
Yeah, I got one here that's good and recent, so we'll start with that. And actually, so my first recommendation is going to be an app recommendation.
Okay.
And it's kind of also a song recommendation. It's available on for the iPhone platform. It's available for Android, and the app, it's a game, and it's called Dumb Ways to Die. And it's that's pretty much what it says, is that there's different ways. There's a lot of dumb ways to die, and you try and avoid those. Pretty interesting backstory on this is that what I highly recommend, and I think we'll go ahead and include this in the blog post, is a link to the video for this as well. There's a very, very catchy little tune called Dumb Ways to Die that enumerates a wide variety of things you should not do, or these would be dumb ways to die. And it's a catchy little death tune as you'll ever hear. There's also a karaoke version available of that same song, because after you hear it, you'll want to sing along. But it was created actually in Australia by the Metro, their train organization or club or company or whatever you call the collection of train people in Australia. And it was the idea of a public service announcement that they wanted to kind of alert people to, hey, it's not a good idea to stand close on a platform. It's not a good idea to try and drive around when a bar's across the tracks and try and zip around it. It's not a good idea to try and beat a train if you think it might be close. But they didn't really think the audience would be really receptive to just hearing that fairly straightforward good advice. So they said, let's try and come up with a way to give this a little bit of a hook and be clever and kind of catch people's attention on it. So many of the dumb ways to die in the song are ones, kicking a wasp's nest, and they all rhyme. I'm not going to do the rhymes for you, but there's a lot of cute ones that are there. Drinking super glue was one from there. And then at the end, they talk about several of the train-related dumb ways to die in the song. But it's a toe tapper. It's pretty fun. The game itself is you get to the characters they draw is done in this kind of very simplified animation. There's very cute characters, and after each one of these characters meets their demise, when they cut back to the chorus in the song, they're all there kind of dancing along in their post-tragedy state, if you will. And one of them deals with, they recommend that you don't, scratch or dent up a mobster's car, and for that character, they show him in a garbage bag and getting hit with a club by the mob guy, and then so he or she is sitting there in the big dance tune number in the bag, just kind of bouncing along, and it's all pretty funny. And the super glue guy doesn't move too much after he drinks the super glue, which is kind of funny as well. So
yeah. But
the game is you try and avoid those. Poking a grizzly bear, you got to duck in time, and all those types of things. So it's that kind of quick action, a little bit like some of the Nintendo games where you'll get the Wario Party kind of deal, where you got to do some sort of quick action. Works great on a tablet. You got swiping and those things. There's actually one that requires you to blow on the screen to keep an airplane up, which is really pleasant for those in the room when you're playing this game and doing that. So you may want to keep that in mind. But the app is free. The interesting thing is there's mixed results, or mixed reports, I should say. The Railway Institute of Trainingology in Melbourne has said that they have seen a 20 to 30% drop in near misses. Most objective reporting has indicated there's been no change in near misses. So whether it's been effective in its intended purpose, I don't know. Jury seems to be out on that. But in terms of the viral deal, the video is extremely popular and fun. The game's gotten plenty of downloads, and so to be something that caught attention as an execution, it's done a very good job.
Okay.
It's banned in Russia. Don't know why.
Because just because.
Yeah, maybe Dumb Ways to Die is crossing your mind more if you're in Russia and they don't want to give people a starter manual. But these are remarkably dumb ways to die. So I don't think they're. So it's an app. It's a fun song. I definitely think you'll enjoy that. And it's a good time waster. And you can compete with friends and you can try and build up a score. And the higher your score gets, you can add additional characters and all that. And I am still, to date, unsuccessful in removing a piece of toast with a fork from a toaster, which is a really important one for me to get right, but I've had no luck so far.
I've had luck in the real world doing that, but I'll probably fail in the game. So.
That's a dumb way to die, Mel. I'm just telling you. According to
yeah, I've never been accused of being the smartest person in the world. Interestingly enough, that sort of flows into my first recommendation. I'm sure that they've covered that topic in mine. My first recommendation today is a podcast. If you're a big podcast listener, you probably have heard of these guys. I hope you're listening to them, but I still come across people that have never heard of this show, so I'm going to pass it along. It's called Stuff You Should Know. It's by two guys named Josh and Chuck. It is put out, actually, by Stuff You Should Know, which is part of How Stuff Works, which is part of the Discovery Channel network. So basically, they've been podcasting for several years now, and every episode is basically how something works or what's the deal with something. So I'm sure that they have probably covered the top 10 dumbest ways to die at some point in the last few years. Some of my favorite episodes was one, I like genetic stuff. They did one, I think last year, about eugenics. It was one of the scariest things I've ever listened to. But Josh and Chuck have a really personable way of explaining common questions people may have in a way that is understandable to the layperson. So they're not pretending that they're big experts on any of these subjects. They do their research. They figure out how to explain it to some dumb person like me that doesn't understand, like, economics. And they try to tell me how Bitcoins work. I've admitted before I don't really understand how you make up a digital currency, so I've never really kind of grasped Bitcoin. And they have a podcast back from the summer that explains how it came about and how it works and how it's a valid currency and all that kind of stuff.
Did you understand it after listening to it? Because I really need some help too.
I did understand at least where they said it was going and how it works. That was part of what I didn't understand about how do you. I mean, I know that kind of the money we use every day is sort of make-believe. It's kind of like monopoly money, but how do you go about making up a currency? And they do a pretty good job of dumbing it down to a level that somebody like me can understand. I did grasp the basic concept way more than I did before, and that's their point of. They're not trying to give you all the information about a subject, but they're trying to give you enough that you go, oh, okay, all right, I see that. And if you want more information about it, then they give you a place to start to go find more stuff out. Some of the titles of some of their recent podcasts are, let's see, How the Deep Web Works, which is really cool. That's a really good one. I think that might be one of their really recent ones. I listened to it the other day. And what would happen if the world stopped spinning? What's the deal with duck-billed platypuses? how Dungeons and Dragons works, how fair trade works, how drag queens work, and what's the deal with Rasputin. So that's just a couple that I picked out of the long iTunes list of to give you an idea of the wide range of things that they cover. They've got ones about Bigfoot, about werewolves, pretty much any topic out there at some point they have probably covered. It's one of the podcasts that I have listened to for the longest time, and it's probably my absolute favorite, what they term infotainment podcast. It's informative and it's entertaining. Josh and Chuck are like, they have this great rapport with each other. They're just like buds and they joke around, and it's obvious that they know each other pretty well. They've been working pretty closely for a long time, and they joke around and they kid and they talk about pretty much everything under the sun. They usually do a pretty good job of staying on topic. They do sometimes end up digressing into things, but lately they've really been staying on topic. But you can find out anything that you want to know. You can go through their list of episodes and find something that you're interested in to give them a try to see if they help you understand something. I like them a lot more than like the NPR's Radio Lab. That's always one of the top podcasts in the informative section. I like Josh and Chuck much better because they're far more personable. They may not be able to get way down into the real deep nitty gritty and understand it because they're not scientists. They're just people that are trying to inform you of how stuff works and stuff you should know. They also have.
Do they take requests?
They do actually. People send them topics they want them to cover all of the time, and you can reach them a multitude of ways. Their website is stuffyoushouldknow.com. They have a Facebook account. They have a Twitter account. Stuffyoushouldknow.com includes every way to find them. Their blog is there. All of their podcast episodes are there. They also have a YouTube channel, which started, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, where they do they're like 3-minute long little episodes on informing you of something new and cool that they can do in just a tiny little one. One of the recent ones was about the largest organism on the planet, and it's, of course, a fungus, not what you would think it is, but it's a fungus. And it's Josh doing the Don't Be Dumb ones. And they're just funny. You'd have to watch them. He's got a pipe in his mouth and he's got a tweed coat on like he's some professor. And they're making fun of that whole stereotype. And it's adorkable. I just love it. So let me see. You can subscribe to that on YouTube at Stuff You Should Know. But you can get links to all of this off their website. And let me see. Yeah, I think I told you they've got a Facebook page and a Twitter page. And they even had a little TV show that was on the Science Channel. I don't think it did very well because people didn't really understand what it was about. It was about basically their podcast, only they sort of fictionalized it. Whereas I think they could have gotten away with just doing a straight up video TV show of what they cover in their podcast. They tried to make it like a sitcom sort of thing, and I don't think it really worked out very well. But there's a few episodes on the Science Channel still, or you might be able to find them on the web if you're really interested, but that didn't work out, and I don't think it got renewed. But despite that, I love Josh and Chuck, and I really recommend that everybody check them out, go through their podcast list. You can obviously get them through iTunes or any other podcast feeder that you use. But like I said, all the episodes are up on their website that you can stream if you want to. And chances are they've covered a topic that you would like to know more about. So check them out.
That sounds cool. So I'm with you on Bitcoin. I need more education. I still don't quite get it. I've been reading stuff on it, and they talk about, well, you got this and that, and then someone's got to have mining software. I'm just like, this, I don't know. I don't have like printing software for my money. I don't. It's beyond me so far.
Well, you don't need mining software if if you're just trying to use Bitcoin. The mining part, which I learned from Josh and Chuck, is I think they said every 10 minutes, there is what they call a block released. And how they keep everything honest is the ledger for every Bitcoin that's out there is publicly available. It's publicly up there. And so it's up there for every Bitcoin that's been released. So every 10 minutes they put out a block to update the ledger. And the mining part is having a network of computers, or if you have a massively awesome computer, to decrypt this math problem that's built into that block. And that's what they're talking about mining. If you're the first computer that unlocks that, you get so many Bitcoins just for unlocking it. So that's why people were trying to mine it, because it was a quote-unquote free way to get Bitcoins. So, but they said they were talking about the energy expenditure that you would pay in electricity to run the computers to do all of this mining would not pay out in the future, because every 4 years they half the number of Bitcoins that you get for unlocking that block. So that podcast, I believe, is from this summer. So I'll look up a link for you when we post it on the blog. If anybody else would like to listen to Josh and Chuck explain Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I think if they have anything on dark matter.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
It's another one that I'm desperately trying to understand. I'm just not there yet. It's important.
Yes, they've covered quite a few of that kind of stuff. They've gotten pretty heavy into some physics-related ones in the past that, at least when I listen to it, I understand. When I walk away, I might not understand. But when they explain it to me, I go, oh, that makes sense. I just don't retain the information.
You have just described my entire college career in Calc 2. When I was in the room, guys writing it up on the board, I'm like, get it, got it, makes perfect sense, and I step out of that room and
it's gone. Yeah.
Calc 2, the class that made me a business major at college.
Yeah, math has never been my best suit, and my calculus experience in college was very similar. Only I think I was sitting in class and I didn't understand it in class either.
I thought I did. I actually did so bad on a test I wrote an apology to the professor at the end of the test to say, I am really sorry. It's not you, it's me.
I should have thought of that. It may have been pretty great. That's funny.
Oh, it's horrible. Anyway, very cool recommendation. So I'm going to revert to my bad habits. And so if you were going to venture a guest, Mel, I'm going to offer a musical recommendation. You want to throw a year out? You think that this album might have been released?
1976.
Congratulations, you got it.
Awesome.
Exactly right.
Do I get a Bitcoin?
Recorded in 1974. Yes, you get a Bitcoin. I'll go start the mining software right now.
Okay.
Recorded in 1975, released in 1976. Texas is a small place, so I'll mention where it was recorded, and you'll know exactly where it's at, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Armadillo World Headquarters in Austin, Texas. Have you heard of that?
No, I have not. We do have a lot of armadillos, but I didn't know we had a headquarters.
Well, at least in 1975, there was an Armadillo World Headquarters, which is where this was recorded. And so this is the second appearance of Captain Beefheart in a recommendation for me, but this is an album of Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention with Captain Beefheart. The only album I'm aware of that these two former high school chums did together. So Frank and Captain Beefheart, how would you like to be a member of that high school? As Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart go into it. But
yeah,
they went to high school together. They kind of intersected on and off over the years, and then for one year here, Beefheart joined Zappa's band for an album that's called Bongo Fury. That's the name of the album, and it's a mix of typical Zappa music, probably more Zappa recommendations coming down the road, gang. Spoiler alert. So some of the typical Zappa stuff, mixed in with Beefheart, which is a much different kind of thing. The stream of conscious poetry, Delta blues, and all these types of things. So it's a very, very interesting mix. Almost all of it's live. The last track on it's called Muffin Man, and that one's recorded in the studio, but everything else is from Armadillo World Headquarters.
Okay.
And this was a fun group. So originally when Frank Zappa, he formed a group called the Mothers of Invention, and they were just the Mothers of Invention, and Frank Zappa was the leader of it. And then eventually it became Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and then eventually just Frank. But he would build bands off of former Mothers musicians, and then he just started to bring in a lot of talent. And so George Duke, who's a very gifted keyboard player, recording artist in his own right, was in the band quite a bit. A tremendous voice as well. And Napoleon Murphy Brock, another excellent name, was another individual, played saxophone and also a very, very strong singer. So he has this lineup. Frank and Captain Beefheart, Captain Beefheart's got, as I mentioned before, a 4.5 octave voice, and he can do all kinds of things, but it's not soothing or whatever to listen to. Frank's got just kind of a smoky voice, and he went there, but these guys could just rip it, George Duke and Napoleon Murphy Brock, and they end up singing a lot of the songs here. And there's I've been psyching myself up because I'm actually going to sing for a second. Brace yourself.
Okay.
But you know you're going to like this album when the song starts off where it goes, "No more credit from the liquor store." And that's the way it starts, and which paints an immediately wonderful picture. And that song is called "Advance Romance," and it's the single best start of a song I've ever heard in terms of that. But later in the song, things aren't going well, and this woman's treating somebody bad, and turns out that she's actually treating George Duke bad in the song because one of the lyrics goes, I'm done singing, by the way, but the lyric goes, "She took George's watch like they always do." And then you got George going, "It was Timex too," and he's just so sad that he's lost his Timex watch. That just neat little moments in the song there. And then they'll switch over to Beefheart, and he will do some of his stuff as well. "The Man with the Woman Head" is one of his tunes that's on there, and along with Sam with the Showing Scalp Flat Top. It's poetry, but it's poetry with kind of a really talented backing band kind of jumping in and out of it as well. So you get these really kind of clever Beefheart lyrics in a couple songs. You get "No More Credit from the Liquor Store," Zappa kind of music. You get some harder rock and some more jazz fusion kinds of things. So it's just a really fun album to listen to. And you get, I think, "No More Credit from the Liquor Store" would be a great ringtone, but I just have struggled to say if I didn't have my phone on mute and I was at work and all of a sudden I got the "No More Credit from the Liquor Store," I'm not sure it's going to convey the necessary brand I might be looking for in certain professional settings, but
yes,
I still really want to do it. But it's a 1976 release, recorded down your neck of the woods in Texas. A wonderful mix of some Beefheart stuff, some Zappa stuff. It was also the first time that Terry Bozzio joined Zappa's band as a drummer. And Terry, I don't know if you remember, and this will also be pretty vintage here for you, a little bit further ahead. Remember a group called Missing Persons?
Yes.
Did you hear that? So that's Dale and Terry Bozzio, who were husband and wife at that point in time, formed Missing Persons. And so Terry's a drummer from Zappa, and then Dale actually ended up doing a little bit with Zappa down the road. But Missing Persons, several of the band members in later Zappa iterations played in the Zappa band before they went off and did the Missing Persons thing. So, but you got George Duke and Napoleon Murphy Brock. It doesn't get much better than that in terms of musicianship and singing, and it's just a good fun album.
I'll have to give that a listen. I don't know very much about Zappa. I know I've heard a few songs here and there, but I don't know much about Zappa. And I did like your Captain Beefheart recommendation. He was on Spotify. I listened to all of those. So I did enjoy that, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, so you got to hear "When I See Mommy, I Feel Like a Mummy."
Yes.
If you listen to, it's gonna wrap her up.
Yeah.
That's a good. But yeah, this one's pretty enjoyable. I like Zappa. Zappa will have a tendency to get scatological on some of his songs, where they're a little rough around the edges, and and sometimes incredibly rough around the edges. There's none of that on there. There's one song that gets a little bit like that, but I think outside of that, I think you'll find a lot of stuff on here you like. The Beefheart stuff's pretty fun. And Advanced Romance, and you can probably do a search and pull that up in YouTube and hear a much better singing rendition of No More Credit from the Liquor Store. But I just
thought
like
you
it
did
so
excellently. That was great.
Yeah, that's the first and last time, I hope, you'll be hearing me sing on our show.
Oh, you did great. You'll never hear me sing, everyone, ever. I'm sorry.
It says 50-50 chance. I was getting ready for the show. I'm like, am I going to sing it or not? I was like, no, don't sing it. It's like, no, you got to sing No More Credit. So,
that was good. There was nothing to be ashamed of there. I have a terrible voice, so I will never subject anyone to my singing. My dogs don't even appreciate my singing. My next one is not as cool as Zappa and Beefheart singing together, but I think it's funny. And the best thing is, y'all will notice this episode, all of my recommendations are going to be free. I'm usually the one going, oh, you need to go buy this stuff, buy this. All my recommendations this time are free. This is a free little web series that you can watch on YouTube. It's actually kind of a long commercial for Intel and Toshiba, and I don't know if you saw this about 5 months ago when it came out, but it's called The Power Inside. And it's like a little mini film that's got 6 episodes. They're all about 8 minutes long, and then I think the very last episode is like 15 minutes long. So you can watch the whole thing now. They're all out, and it's not going to take a lot of time, and I thought it was quite amusing. Harvey Keitel is in it. Alan Tudyk from Firefly and Suburgatory has an appearance in it. And since, we essentially met live tweeting bad movies on Sci-Fi, this is like a bad movie from Sci-Fi. It's the same sort of thing. Aliens are invading the Earth, only they look like mustaches. They're little aliens that jump on people's faces and give them a big hairy mustache. And this incidentally happens about every 30 years. When you look back through history, you'll see the mustache craze. It comes back about every 30 years, and it's really because the aliens are back trying to take over. And the only thing that stands between us and the aliens, which I think are called Urics, is the Society of Barbers. And they kill them with straight razors. And
so while they're resident on someone's face?
They can cut them off that way. One of the ways they get them off people is to show them a video of someone shaving. And that scares them. And they will detach and jump off, and then you can slice them with your razor. But the gist of the entire thing is that there's this kid named Neil, who's your basic loser, who works at an office, and he gets sent on a coffee run and meets this girl that also works there who he's had a crush on forever. It turns out Neil is the direct descendant of this line of men that this alien queen needs to mate with to regain her power. And every 30 years she comes back to do the deed, and the Society of Barbers has to stop her. So this is the end of the line. They're trying to destroy the queen, and it's time for Neil to find the power inside. But it's essentially, they use laptops throughout the little web series quite a bit. They're Toshiba laptops. It's funny because it's basically a really long commercial for Intel-powered Toshiba laptops, but it's actually really well made, and I think it's funny. I think it's great. And I should mention that I had never heard of this. I've never seen anybody else talk about this little series except Holly from Twitter. So @HWilson on Twitter is the one who initially sent me the link to this whole thing, and I'm very appreciative of it, so I'm going to pass it along to everyone else. It's not going to take very long for you to watch the whole little series. It's full of great little science fiction sort of tropes going on. It's full of a lot of humor. Neil has a crazy best friend who gets in his way as much as he tries to help him. And it's just a good time. It's not going to take you very long to watch it. It's free, which is great. Available on YouTube. Um, the channel is Inside Films. So if you search for Inside Films, you'll get their whole YouTube channel. It's also, I believe, it's thepowerinside.com is their website, which will give you links to all of the videos as well. But they held open auditions back when they were making this for people to appear in the episodes. I just thought it was great. A great example of brand marketing out there to make this little mini movie to sell Toshiba laptops. And it's actually something that I enjoyed despite it being a commercial. So I suggest everyone go out and watch it, and if it inspires you to go buy a Toshiba laptop, then good for Toshiba.
Absolutely. Money well spent.
Yes.
So who plays the queen?
She is all CGI. She doesn't show up until the very end, the very last episode. So it's got a small main cast and then a lot of aliens with mustaches who, basically kind of act like zombies, but with their glowing red eyes. It's a good time. You should just start playing episode 1, and the first couple of minutes of episode 1 is like classic science fiction horror movie. It's, two people making out in a car and a meteorite, and, and it's great.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I had not heard of that at all. So that will definitely I'll be definitely checking that out. It sounds really fun.
Yeah, I never would have heard about it if I hadn't seen Holly mention it, and she probably knew about it because Alan Tudyk was in it. Holly and I are both big Firefly crazies. So I didn't know anything about it, and I've really never seen anybody else mention it. But it's well worth a watch. Won't take a lot of time. It's free. It's well made. I mean, it doesn't look like something somebody made in their basement. It's got Harvey Keitel in it. A real film company made it. The acting's good. It's the film quality is good. It's great. You should check it out.
And for those of you listening, neither Mel nor I are going to be receiving Toshiba laptops or tickets on the Melbourne train. Since I just realized we kind of mentioned a couple of company, but well done ones. That is, if you're going to do it, at least do it right. And I think the examples we gave tonight or today are really good. So yeah, as opposed to Windows product placement and Under the Dome, where I originally had no interest in a Windows phone whatsoever, and then after them stuffing that in my face every other episode of all these idiots under the dome with their Windows phone, which I'm assuming are all the Windows phones that have been sold, period, I will never, ever, ever consider a Windows phone.
I've also noticed that in Teen Wolf, the MTV show, that they all have Lumias. And I'm like, really? You really think there's that many teenagers running around with a Windows phone? But, oh well, they got to pay the bills.
That's right. Got to give it a shot. All right. Well, you mentioned Twitter, so I guess we can move right into our Twitter recommendations for today.
I did.
Is Holly going to be your Twitter recommendation, or you got a different one?
No, I do have a different one.
Okay.
But y'all should check out Holly anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to give kind of a different one this week. My recommendation is Carp Fishing Journal. That's CARP Fishing Journal.
Okay.
Let me read from their profile. Keep all your carp news in one place with us at Carp Fishing Journal. So if you're a carp fisherman, and they've got just shy of 10,000 followers. I can't explain why. About 2 years ago, I brought Twitter up, and I got notified I had a new follower, and my new follower was Carp Fishing Journal. So I followed them back, And while I'm not a carp fisherman, if I were, it appears like they would be sharing a lot of very helpful information to me. So if we have any carp fans out there, carp fishing fans out there listening to Nurture and Support, this appears to be the Twitter account for you. So my recommendation this week is Carp Fishing Journal, and I think they follow back.
I was going to ask you, do you do a lot of carp fishing, Kelly?
No, not really. But it's just, I like to keep in touch with the carp fishing community. You never know.
You do. I like carp. Goldfish and koi are carp, and I would really like a koi pond someday. But I think that they're a little more hardcore with their carp fishing than keeping them in a pond. So I'll have to think about that recommendation
all of
before
your carp
I jump.
news is in one place.
All of it. Okay. All right. Well, I might have to check them out then. My Twitter recommendation this week is at Doctorow, and that is DOCTOROW, and that is the Twitter account of Cory Doctorow. He is a writer, blogger, and he's an activist. Basically, he is a wealth of information on everything in the tech industry. He's very concerned about personal security, things like that. He has many books out. You can check him out at his Twitter feed and his website that he gives, but he mainly does a lot of stuff in the newsosphere about government oversight, things like that. He has an excellent book out called Little Brother and its sequel Homeland that he gives away for free if you go to his website. And basically that's what they're about, is they're fiction, of course, but about the concerns that people should have about, like the NSA getting into our phones and all of that stuff that's so popular right now. That's kind of what he reports on. And he wrote a couple of books that are basically young adult type fiction that deals with a society like this. And I highly recommend his book, Little Brother. I'll probably talk more about it in another episode. But I recommend you go follow him because he's a wealth of information on all sorts of information, whether it be books. He doesn't really get into politics other than the personal security stuff and things like that. He gives out tips all the time about how to protect your information and your identity online and all sorts of things like that. So I suggest you go check him out.
And what's his website name, Mel?
Craphound.com. He's got a podcast.
Carpound.
Nope.
So
Craphound.
Well, yeah. So we without planning it, we had two very close. We had carp and crap today. So
yes.
There we go. Very cool.
But
yeah, I'm just as you were talking, I brought up the site. Looks pretty good. Great.
And I'm sure he likes carp too.
Yeah, carp. Yeah, if he needs all his carp information in one place, if I got a deal for him.
Yes.
So excellent. So let's remind folks of the many ways that they can contact us. You can tweet us at NurtinSup on Twitter. You can go to nurtureandsupport.net. You'll find the blog. You can do comments. You can send us an email to nertandsup@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your recommendations, because if you don't start offering us recommendations, I'm going to keep firing out some carpfishingjournal.com Twitter recs. We need some help here. I mean, if that's the best I could come up with for today, maybe you could do better. I think you could. Of course, you can always hit Mel and I on our Twitter accounts, personal Twitter accounts as well. Did I miss anything? I
think that's it. We would really, really like some feedback from people and some recommendations from all of you out there. And I think I have a few things that I would like to throw out and ask our lovely listeners to help recommend to me at some point. So hit us up, people. Please.
Please do.
We need to nurture and support you, and in turn be nurtured and supported, because we're lonely.
Two-way street.
So I think that's all we have for this episode. Come back next week for episode 11, where we will have more awesomeness to share. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
nurturing and supportive